This is Entrepreneurs on Deck, where we ask the very important question, what's in your pitch deck? Right now, I have my guest, one of my favorite people that I always bump into and always have a good smile, good energy, great spirit. These are the people that we gravitate to and towards. And my man right here is Scott Beltz. He has a company called Nurture Culture. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, Nurture Culture LLC, or just Nurture Culture, does just fine.
Yeah, so tell me exactly how this company came about. Like how, where did the idea come from, and what inspired you, and who are the people that you are trying to attract and affect positively as far as their lifestyle?
Well, thank you very much for that very positive introduction, Wes. I appreciate the kind words, and I want to let everybody else out there know that I feel that same energy every time I see you walk into a room.
Thank
So
you.
anybody who's in your immediate network is definitely benefiting from that positivity. As for Nurture Culture, I'll dive right into it. Our purpose is to nurture cultures within organizations to instill a positive, empowered atmosphere for team members from all walks of life. And culminating at the summit of what we're trying to achieve, which is our vision, is a business world, as well as the entirety of the world itself, where positive, motivated working environments are the gold standard. So we're looking to just radiate positivity throughout not only the business landscape, but the world and the communities that are within. And I actually had co-founded the business with my father back in February of last year. And since then, I've been managing partner. And honestly, prior to founding the business, I had about 12 to 13 months of this idea. I was kicking around in my brain. I was finishing up an MBA program, a few internships. I got a sales job in the energy industry, made 5 sales in a week and a half. And I was like, I got this idea, and I know I can sell. Why not try selling what I got going on? So
Right, for sure.
that ultimately culminated in starting Nurture Culture. And it was a long road. It actually took about 6 months to finally, for any entrepreneur out there, I don't want to say take your foot off the gas pedal, but take your time in refining what deliverables and what service you want to enact upon and offer to your target market, so that you're giving the most value possible. I was fortunate enough to have a divine connection fall into my immediate network, and a PhD candidate for industrial and organizational psychology, Corinne Rodimus, and I were able to collaborate and create a culture observation. Now, this culture observation is meant to ascertain where your culture is trending, positive or negative. And within that, the deliverables end up being increased engagement, increased productivity, with an expectation of decreasing cost in revenue and retention. And you get historical culture metrics, which SEC compliance for 2021 is going to require reporting metrics on human capital aspects. So the feeling side of business is going to become very important in how people are receiving the stress that comes along with job responsibilities. It's not all sunshine, dandelion, and rainbows. It's experiencing toxicity and how we can cut that out from our business operations. So we at Nurture Culture, we want to immerse ourselves, dip our toes in the water, dive in to that toxicity to find a way how to eradicate it. And ultimately, if we find out that there's a culture score that is lacking, maybe you have a 21.2 out of 100, we're looking to change your culture in a way that it will trend and compound positively with a positive nature on its own. So we lend a hand to guide you towards your ideal vision of cultural success. And we do nothing more other than helping you achieve that type of culture that you want.
I mean, that was well said right there. I mean, I was going to ask you for like an executive summary, but that was it right there, though. But as far as like the toxicity, as far as the nature of the business, the people that runs it, the ideology, the thought process, and dealing with management down to employees. Where does it start? Does it start at the head, And if it does start at the head, like what happens with the, the people that's in management or the lower level, if somebody's, are we dealing with personalities here? Is that inclusive with everything we're talking about? Personalities and emotion?
Wes, I think that's a very insightful question that everybody should look at asking not only themselves, but their peers around them. It absolutely starts at the top, which abstractly is actually the bottom. The founder, the CEO, the leader of a company is the base and the roots for the tree that is growing, that is the ultimate growth of the organization. And it all trickles down. If there's a grapevine of talking bad about, this person who did this, or an experience, an exchange where individuals, didn't really meet eye to eye, that gets permeated throughout not only the senior leadership teams, but the mid managers, which you were alluding to, and the frontline employees. But each tier goes about it a different way. A frontline employee, they'll shoot it straight. They'll tell you, what, this happened, it's toxic, and they're going to permeate that at a faster rate than the leadership team. And when you're at the higher up you go, the longer the process is of relaying that information. So a quick example, an experience that a professional had relayed to me. She's actually going to be appearing on Culture Confessions in our next episode. She had an experience where a situation occurred. She was promoted into a leadership position, and the people who she used to joke around with and talk with every day of the week for years didn't look her in the eye anymore when they walk by in the hall. That's culture. We define culture as the atmospheric, organically evolving energy felt on a moment-to-moment and daily basis among team members. So when you feel that immediate disconnect, there's negativity and toxicity. Energy. That energy is creating that gap. And we have to find a way how to prevent this gap from occurring. And if the gap actually occurs, we need to put a bridge on top of that for people to come to a common understanding. I mean, that was such an insightful question, Wes, that I think everybody could take advantage of, with intuitively thinking about their own operations.
No, that's awesome, man. Thank you. And, sometimes you don't want to go to work. Like if you have a job, you don't want to go to work because of the environment and the people that's there. And like you said, you walk in and then people are not making eye contact with you anymore. And it's like they made a shift to not mess with you anymore. And you're thinking, okay, is it me? Like you will just want to quit the job now because you feel like you're not wanted anymore. And you're thinking, what did I do? Or what did I cause? How did I get to the space? Sometimes you don't want it to be your fault, and it's your fault, and you don't know how you got here. So how do you fix a person like that? How do you identify where the wrong came from?
I think that is the obstacle and the hurdle that we're all faced with. And the first thing is, with a lot of things in life, it's acceptance. Accepting that each one of us can make mistakes, but we also all have the power to correct them with what path we choose to walk down. So if I know that something I said may have been out of turn 6 months ago, and it's now created a rift within my team, right, I need to present that and say, you know what, I made a mistake. And you know what, this hurts me to say that, I slipped up, but I apologize for what had occurred, earlier in our business operations. I feel stressed and I feel upset that I'm not able to communicate with you, team member B in this instance. I'm team member A in the situation, as efficiently as we used to. And I think that's creating a rift, not only between us, but the team. We're all adults, and we all know that cliques can form, and you hang out with that group more than the other. That happens. That's life. But when we're all taking on a professional endeavor, we're working towards a common goal, not only for ourselves.
Right.
I don't have children, but most professionals out there have kids. You're working for your kids in the community. So really, this toxicity and stress is seeping into all aspects of life outside of our professional environment. So I wish I had the correct tool to go about.
I was just about to ask you about that too.
Yeah.
What tool do you use?
I think taking, I'm not a psychologist, but I've had references to tactics that may be used. I'll give two examples right now. appreciative inquiry. So if you know that somebody may have a lack of energy for whatever reason, go and ask, how are you? How are you can go a long way. And it sounds so simple, but
No, it's true.
simple is best. And honestly, you know, appreciative inquiry, you can mold it towards your own thought process and what you're trying to, you know, reach with that conversation. But when you ask a question, somebody now has an avenue to let it all out, to say, you know what, this client said some mean things to me and I feel demotivated. Okay, well, that's what's preventing this person, you know, from being in an optimal, you know, state of being for that particular job function. But also positivity ratios. I'm not perfect, even within my family and my friend group. You know,
Or girlfriend, spouse, anything.
yeah, I am still negative sometimes, but I try to include more positivity to outweigh that.
Yeah.
And with trying to actively decrease our negative interactions, the positive interactions are put to the forefront. So if you know that you have 5 people within your team, you should always be thinking, how many positive interactions have I had with these people? And if you're not able to hone in on the positivity because there's that negative interaction, you know, weighing on your mind,
Right.
that's the hurdle you got to overcome. So those are 2 quick tools that we would recommend anybody use, you know, within their team environment, whether it's a sports team, nonprofit, for-profit, university, it doesn't matter. Every type of organization has a team environment that can be affected for the better.
Absolutely, man. And I do the same here as a light designer with my company. And, you know, the number one tool that I use, I probably have mentioned it to you already, is emotional intelligence. Now, I do a lot of reading when it comes to emotional intelligence. Whenever I can grab my hand on some information, a book, I try to grab as much as possible when it comes to that information, because I think if we all have emotional intelligence, we can understand it. We can acknowledge when somebody's doing bad. We can acknowledge when somebody's feeling bad. We can acknowledge when somebody's going through something, and it's up to you to be able to reach out to that person to say, okay, maybe I did something and I never had the intention of hurting you or putting you in a certain space. Maybe I just walked out of my house today and I had an argument with my wife and I didn't know I was carrying this energy. So we have to be aware, self-aware. You know, self-aware is key to, self-awareness is the key to try to interact with people positively. If you're not aware of yourself and what you're doing, you could be doing this, not knowing you're doing this, and it's a negative stance, right? Or not knowing that you know, people are looking at you. You got this face because you're thinking about, you know, something that just happened. So you have to be mindful of everything. You have to be mindful of your social surroundings, the people around you. You have to know, like, way over there, this guy over there is really looking at you mean.
Mean mugging at you.
That energy. But you have to acknowledge that, and you have to like face that head on. You have to be willing to face these things head on, because if you don't, it's just gonna be all over the space. It's gonna be like the elephant in that room, and you're like, damn, it feels thick in here. But it's because you're not understanding, or you're not realizing that you're allowing this energy to you know, to take over the space. And so that's the first book that I send off to everybody, which is Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradberry. And that book, tell you the truth, changed my life. It changed my life. And every single, whether I'm hiring somebody, bringing them on board to our network, that's the first book I send off, because you and I have to communicate properly. Because we all have different backgrounds, we all have different attitude, personality, and we may not mesh well, but we can. If we allow it, we can actually come together, all of us. But some people feel like, I don't get along with him, I don't get along with her. Why? There's no reason why you should not be able to get along with another human being.
I think that is a wonderful piece that you threw together there about emotional intelligence. And
that's a tool for you.
Yeah. the awareness that comes with that, and you put something that is so hard to put into words, that feeling in the atmosphere of the weight of your surroundings, you know, preventing you from being able to articulate what you want to say is a big obstacle and rift that is created between us. Wes, I wanted to ask you, can you give everybody who's listening to this amazing content that's being cultivated by us right now an example of that atmosphere, that swampy feeling of negativity? Do you have an experience that, you know, could really help align our listeners with what you're getting across? Because I think your message, and I would recommend everybody, if you haven't already double back and re-listen to what Wes had to say about emotional intelligence and awareness. Can you give us?
Working, I used to be a car salesperson. I was a manager at Major World, and you know, that space. If you can thrive in that space and get out and make it out of it alive, you're the man. I mean, spiritually, emotionally. I mean, the higher up, the management, they will try to crush your soul, your energy, and just bring it down. Because if you made a mistake on, let's say, the idea is you have a customer comes in, look at a car. First, you sit down with them, you gather information, and you make sure you capture that lead. You know, even if they walk away, you capture that lead to be able to, you know, make another phone call, maybe try to get them back in there. Now, if for whatever reason, after you follow all your steps and this customer walks out without buying anything, right? Now, of course, you want to have measurements in place to protect the money that's coming into the dealership, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, money gets spent on advertising, and these, you know, customers are coming in here on behalf of these advertising. So we have to capitalize on every single body that walks in there. Now, if you let this customer walk out and a higher management did not have his hand on that person and had a chance to close that person, it could be your ass.
Oh, man.
Now you have to redeem yourself once you're in that space. But the way they went about it, it's almost like they was putting a gun to your head, and the very next morning you walk in there, you have this like feeling of what the fuck. Like, like you sense, like, am I gonna get fired today? Am I gonna, you know, do good today? You want to do great, you want to do excellent, but you know this feeling could have more power over your emotion. It could drain you, and I think the tactic they use don't work because there was a high turnover on employees, on salespeople. You know, they would come in. Average person would stay there for about 3 months and then they'll go away. And it's because the way they went about interacting with the employees and the way they reprimanded the employees for doing certain things that they didn't want done because they would lose money that way. But I think if you train the employees, you reinforce that positivity. Yes, you know, what you did was, you know, it's not the way, but here's a better way. You know, this is how you do it. You know, that energy. But yeah, that's how you do it. Yeah, I'm listening. Now you, like, it's rejuvenating your energy, your spirit. So you have to be conscious about these things. When you have a boss or a manager that's rushing into the room to rip you another asshole, that's not the best tactic, I think. And I think maybe in some industries is needed, but I think that's never, ever, ever is needed.
Yeah, that's very deconstructive, and you can feel the energy still radiating from you of that toxicity. Like that's something that lasts.
You develop that toxic.
Yeah, and that resonates inside of you and lasts for a long time. And thank you for giving that example, because I'm sure everybody can relate to a situation. I mean, just a few months ago, I was in a car dealership, and you almost felt that overhanging nature of what was going on. And I felt for the sales rep because they're put in that high pressure situation to perform. But, you know, thinking abstractly about how you're talking about that positive reinforcement, if the management and equally the sales rep, you know, the frontline team member go about it from that way, that just compounds, provides more returns in the long run, and that turnover is erased. So we're talking about like those tools I gave are the culture between individuals, which culminate and create the overall organizational culture. So when you have a culture that's you know, it's that toxic, we need to assess alignment with core values. What is your purpose and vision, you know, to make people feel like, They're just
Shit.
yeah, like in a pit of despair and in a black hole where there's no light coming out of it.
In front of people and all that stuff. Like, and I've seen it a lot. Like, people get reprimanded in front of a whole room, and then they think it's cool. They think that's good. That's good for the spirit of the person. And you demeaning the person. The person is being put down. What do you think they're gonna do? They're probably gonna go home, drink, smoke a little bit more, and that affects us. It's like a
It's a loop.
360 of effect. It's like you can't win. You lose at your job. You go home, you drink, you smoke, and then you start all over again the next day. And it's like, what kind of life am I living?
Yeah, for real.
You fall into a pattern.
Yeah, and that's I love the nature of this dialogue, it being real and authentic. And this is what people need to hear, not only from an entrepreneurial perspective, but just from a general professional perspective. We all have the ability to set the standard that we want to be a part of. If that environment is toxic and you do everything in your power to try to change it, and you're just getting set in that 360 loop of no change, you got to make that decision to positively affect your own life path. That may be walking away. I mean, there's some, depending on the nature of the toxicity, you can go and get outside help in terms of, auditing that company, like either being nurture culture or, equal employment opportunity commission. Like if it's something that, you're actually not being able to present yourself in a professional manner to conduct your job responsibilities, there are things out there to help you. But when you don't feel like you have a voice that can be heard, you're not even able to affect that organization.
Right.
So coming back to the top, it really does have to be an initiative of the leader to want to, the example that I use is
that was the higher up. The higher up had you walk into a room that I'll fire you right now. Oh, you looked at me, I'm fired. It's like, where do we do that? Like, why are we doing that?
Yeah, and that's that. It's really, is the leader looking in the mirror, or are they looking through the window? The mirror when it's a mistake. I know that's how I try to operate. My bad team, I made a mistake. I will overcome it, and we will attack a new day. When there's something good that happens, I'm sure this is how you operate. You look through the window and you say, "Good job. All of this has been because of you, because of me." That's a true leader. That's somebody who actually cares about the team members within that environment, as opposed to, if you walk into a room and it's like, hip shooting, like you're fired. That is not constructive whatsoever.
Constructive at all, man. So that's why, listen, at the end of the day, not every job is not for everybody, right? Because you may not be a salesperson, you may be a technician somewhere, and maybe this is not your field. But somebody will tell you that maybe this is not your field, and you can kind of like, maybe you're right, maybe that's not my field, and you go ahead and do something else. But you don't kill somebody's spirit, trying to tell them you're supposed to do it this way, you just don't do that. But yeah, we can move on from that.
Yeah, I know we don't want to damper everybody's mood too much here. We got to get a little more positivity going, which I think even what's awesome about, and this is again for our listeners, my perspective of the operation that Wes has going on here. Even a toxic example feels positive with how he relays it. I want everybody to think about that as they're listening to this, that even when we're going about all of this negativity, we can still add a positive light to it to, relax a little bit, be aware of our own current state so that we can come to, the opportunity to identify the actual occurrence that should have been changed, which is exactly what Wes and I just did right there. And I'm sure everybody could feel that energy and the positivity, that went along with it. And when you try to operate like that in every aspect of your life, you will be surprised how many more connections fall into your network that are aligned with your same thought process. Wes and I, we were actually supposed to get a podcast back in early February, together. And I was sick. Thankfully it wasn't Corona, but he may have thought, he was like, you know what? Scott is a welcher here. He said he was going to do a podcast and he said he was sick, but we actually,
but because of you, I downloaded this platform called Anchor.
Mm.
And it's been my platform since then. So thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And the point of that example I was trying to get to is that we continue to see each other at networking events, and it was like we didn't stop talking. We just continued our dialogue and conversation, even though there was an obstacle put in our way. We used positivity to get through that, and now look at
Yeah.
this collaboration. Anchor, I'll do another Anchor ad real quick. Anybody out there, please use it. No minimum listenership, and you can monetize with an Anchor ad. I think anybody who has any type of idea that you are passionate about should be on this platform to, propel it forward with the distribution network and everything else. And honestly, the mission of what Wes has going on here with his team is important because it gives entrepreneurs a chance and an opportunity to get on deck and really provide the authenticity of what they've been through. And I'm grateful to be, continuing on with our dialogue that we started. I think, when did we meet first, Wes? Was that back in January? Am I correct on that?
That was probably the early part of the year. I believe we met at the college.
Yeah, that's
If I'm
correct.
not mistaken. And then more events happened, and then we kept on bumping into each other. I mean, we enjoyed the energy. I think we gravitated to each other's energy, and then it was clean. And you don't meet a lot of people like that, but when you meet people like that, and you keep them around.
Exactly. And I think that's I'll elaborate upon that point. You're the culmination of, they say, the 5 people you spend the most time with. And when you have individuals, for example, like I would like to think of myself as a positive human being, and I believe Wes is as well. When you add people who are positive to your network, that's going to lift you up. That's going to empower you to be not only a better professional, but a better human being and individual. And again, the human race is only the culmination of all of our efforts. And when we make those efforts positive, the world is going to be a completely different landscape in the future. And that's what we're striving for.
Yes.
For the next generation to not have to deal with, triple bottom line, you're fired, any of those aspects. Like, we're trying to avoid it. Oh man.
That's why I developed this group. Another group. It's called Health, Wealth, and Good Credit. Right. So the idea of positive, having good health, having wealth, to go along with your health. If you don't have health, wealth don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? So health, wealth, and good credit. So good credit allows you to have opportunity. Because that is your number one resource. Like I keep telling people, that's like having gold and oil in your backyard. You just have to know you can dig it to get a lot out of it, and I display how to utilize your credit so you can live a life. I got people right now that have not worked for like maybe 3 years, just living on credit.
Hey, if you're able to apply that service for people, I think all of us face that time in our lives where we need to assess what's going on. And for some people, that may be a week, it may be a month, it may be a year or 3 years. You need to have that type of financial security to make sure that, the bills are paid. If you have children, their bellies are full. And, knowing that somebody's out there doing it from an authentic approach like yourself, I think is really a model that other people should be trying to replicate. And what will come about from that is a more certain landscape for the economy and a more certain landscape for everybody out there with what they want to do with their lives, because that's what you're doing. You're helping them redesign and design their lives themselves, obviously with your guiding hand and professionalism. And that's what it's all about, trying to make our each respective life better in the long run.
All I'm trying to do, Scott, is nurture the culture. That's all
I like to hear that. Oh, that's amazing.
If I could accomplish that, then I'm winning. I feel good.
Absolutely. So I am, again, more than honored to have been a part of this conversation. Wes, do you have any final questions for me before I have one more question for you before we wrap up this segment?
Okay. I mean, as far as like in this trying time, in this environment that we're in, this pandemic, this corona virus, like how do one or business entities stay afloat? How do they find their way again? Like business has been shut down, people are out of work. Where do we find hope? There's always going to be uncertainties, but and this one is kind of huge. This is massive. It's hitting across the world. So like when it comes to your organization, nurture culture, how do you go about life now?
I think we have to, everybody always talks about that's an amazing question, especially super relevant for the times. I think first we have to start with looking at the reality of the situation, which everybody knows the phrase, the real world, taking into account what's going on. We're disengaged, we're avoidant of the future because it's uncertain, and we're dreading the workload of future job responsibilities. I think that could be a pretty factual assessment of what everybody is thinking right now, because it is uncertain. But once we set the baseline for what our current reality is, we get to choose the visualization for the ideal. Now, the ideal would be we're all engaged and engaging from a positive standpoint, and we're not avoidant. We're seeking these opportunities and a hurdle to overcome, to jump over on our sprint towards excellence. And from that comes a drive and an energy to complete new projects.
Yeah.
So once you create those two polarities, the bridge starts to arise for us to find out, okay, maybe I need to read 10 more pages today to educate myself on this changing landscape. Just like Emotional Intelligence 2.0. I think that's a book that everybody should start with. So that
Everybody.
when we get back into those working environments that we were in for, 5, 10, 15, 20 years in some cases for some individuals, we can have an understanding of how we should be engaged. Now is an opportunity to set the foundation for the culture we all want within our organizations. And each individual has an opportunity to do that. So to answer your question fully, I think each one of us has our own respective motivators, which is kind of a lead into the question that I'm going to have for you. But we all have to identify what motivator gets us going for that day, that week, and that month. And by identifying that, it makes it so much easier for us to look forward to accomplishing those incremental goals to achieve the grander vision in place. And everything I'm talking about here can be integrated into your daily lives for those listening. However, it's up to you to enact upon it. Nothing is going to change without your drive and your passion, to enact upon everything that's in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in being obsessive with what you have, and I believe always tapping into different resources to stay ahead. And I have a business called Life Designers, and that's my main business. But you got to be able to create foundations, financial foundations elsewhere. God forbid something happened, and if I'm not in the space, if I had a brick and mortar, and my overhead is like $5,000, I have a lease for the next 5 years. I'm obligated to pay that, and now I'm losing money, and my cash flow is low. So I always gotta think financial foundation. So that's why multiple streams of income is another group that I'm a part of. That there's opportunities to be able to tap into different things that bring passive income, aggressive income to you, that sustain your personal lifestyle. Pay your rent, your bills, your car note, whatever. Your kids are getting taken care of. God forbid the company does not make money anymore. Money's still coming in.
I think that's a wonderful point. And, I was talking about maybe more of an abstract answer to your question. You gave a tool and an opportunity for everybody to capitalize on, and looking for those, additional passive streams of income, because then you take the onus out of your employer giving you that biweekly check, weekly check, or salary, whatever it may be. And you can at least fall back on, all right, baseline bills are paid. I got a little extra on the top here with my multiple income. I can choose now where I'm going to go forward with my life. And
Right.
Having that opportunity makes all the difference.
Yeah, when you have the wind on your back, you still can be creative. When the house is crashing down and it's burning, you're not thinking properly, and your brain just goes out of whack. And that's why I teach, even my clients that come in, they get their life design, and then they tap into some money. If it's possible, pay your rent, your bills, everything for the next 6 months to a year, where you're not even thinking about these things anymore. Now you're just out here freely thinking, being creative to get, make more money. Because you need to be able to tap into your brain to do that. And if you can't tap into your brain because it's controlled by stress, life, events, and things like that, you're not going to go nowhere with yourself. You're going to end up being unhealthy. The chemicals in your body is not going to gyrate right, and it's going to affect you negatively. And you're going to be this aging, fast person, and all that stuff goes into play. So I'm conscious, I'm mindful about all these things, and I try not to be affected by outside forces, which is, anything could come out of the universe to affect your lifestyle. So you have to prepare for these things mentally, emotionally, financially, and physically with your health.
I think that is a wonderful explanation of how people can go about this and how you can maintain that awareness. With that being said, and I'm looking forward to the eloquence of your response here, Wes. What is a motivator that really gets you going, that you think other people could align with? Again, thinking mentally, physically, spiritually here, what is something either in the past or more recently, or just any type of inspiration you'd like to give out there that somebody else can attach to? Even if it's one person, we know that what you're about to say will make a difference.
Motivative to me is, growing up, I watched, my family struggle and things like that. And almost like on a cliff of being homeless. So my strategy, since 17 was like, get as much license as you can possibly get. So that way you can, you won't ever be in a space where, you have to be in jeopardy. Your life is, you're in the streets now. So I went and got security license. I went and got bartending license. I went and got a direct TV license. I went and got a bunch of these licenses. So God forbid, one job didn't work out. I knew that I was going to be, I was going to have a job to maintain and keep an income coming in. So the motivator is never to be homeless. And I don't want, my family to be in the streets. I don't want my kids not be in a situation where they can't eat anymore. So those things drive me. And the energy that I get from trying to be all the way successful with everything that I do, that's all part of it, And I grab everything. I grab on everything that I can possibly grab on to keep me going. Whether it's reading a book, I know I'm going to find new information to keep being creative. So I'm motivated to be able to scale my business and keep cash flow going. And I know my brain, just on my brain alone, I can't rely on it because it can only go so far. So I have to rely on those people that came before me, right? Learn from that and push ahead a little bit further. You know what I mean? So I learn from individuals like you. I learn from individuals like my clients, family members, even my kids. They smart. I'm like, really? You said that? I was changing my kid this morning. No. He was in the shower. And I thought he was done because I soaked him up already. And, I left him in there so he can rinse off. I came back thinking he was done, and I shut down the water. He was in there like, really, Daddy? Really? You serious? So this is a 3-year-old. This is a 3-year-old who had like soap in his hair. He was doing his own hair. He turned around and was like, you serious, Daddy? I'm like, I thought we was done. So I turned the water back on. I'm like, where did he get that? Like, all right. So I'm realizing, like, these kids, they pick up on your habits and your the way you talk and all that stuff. And I'm mindful, even being here at home, that all the things that I do for business and talking to clients, I let them sit next to me. I let them, see everything. So that way they can pick up these habits, these keys that they're going to need later on to open up doors, So I'm motivated by everything around me. I'm motivated by even this pandemic, by trying not to be a part of the disaster that's going on, So keeping the family safe in a quarantine mode, not even going out so often because I don't want to come back, being detrimental to even my family, like that. So, we take turns going out and we make sure we're safe. So it's just strategy of life, and it's everything is a motivation.
Yeah, I think that like I was getting chills throughout that. I could feel the energy as well. And I thought that was a super authentic, motivator. And I hope everybody that's listening right now really listens and hangs on to each word that you were talking about there. Because not only did you wrap in your personal life and your professional life, but it was your family that was wrapped in and the next generation all into one, life motivator from a life designer. Look at that. Like that's quality right there.
Right.
All
Good
right, Wes.
segue.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm appreciative to be a part of Entrepreneurs on Deck here. And again, this is content that is going to be featured on both of our podcast platforms on Anchor,
Yes.
Ultra Confessions as well. So I know everybody's going to get a lot of value from this. And I'm looking forward to all of our future collaboration that is going to come about from here.
Yeah, if you were ever looking to see and feel what an entrepreneur looked like, you're looking at Scott Beltz. He owns Nurture Culture, and he's my entrepreneur on deck. And as he displayed it very well, articulated what his company does and what he brings to the table. And I think every environment needs it. I think every human being individually needs it to be able to connect with another human being, to move on with life accordingly, where the chemicals is balanced, where they're not being deteriorated by outside forces, and keeping the spirit up. I think just keep moving on in that way. And I think, just by being around you, Scott, I think you elevate people. So I'm going to leave you with that.
Thank you very much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and our listeners have a good day as well, Wes.
Likewise, I feel the same. You guys do the same, all right? Entrepreneurs on Deck, we're shouting out. The same. You guys do the same, all right? Entrepreneurs on Deck, we're shouting out.